Day 2 of NFL free agency is nearly in the books, and while it didn't suck as much as day 1, still wasn't great. We'll talk about it all on today's Gold Standard Podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the original Gold Standard Podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Levin Black. Levin, it is Tuesday night. Recording this a day early because of your work schedule. Day 2 of NFL free agency is almost in the books.
Started?
Huh. One word to summarize your feelings right now.
Sorry, I'm giving you 2. False start.
I mean, it is. Look, I did a show with Vish yesterday, and I took a minute to just grieve a little bit for the death of this first group of 49ers players. And I totally get that the guys that left, except for Greenlaw, they were ready to move on from. It was smart to move on from. I get all that, but I was still bummed because I loved this team and I loved the way they played. And now, I mean, it is over. It is over. It is dead. It is buried. That era is in the 49ers past.
Yeah, it's both depressing. I don't know that excitement is quite set in, but I would say maybe relief to a certain extent, because I do think the Band-Aids that need pulled off got pulled off. The problem is with the Band-Aids came some skin. You didn't want to lose, right? Like Leonard Floyd was what? It's just, there's a bit more loss than I expected. And so far there's been no free agent signing that moves the needle. Like a backup tight end, I don't care. I'll say it nicely. I don't care. Like the backup tight end, yes, it'll be cool to not have to go, oh, what crap are we going to have a backup tight end this year? But it doesn't move the needle at all. Now, it's still early. They can still, they go out and they get a couple of these players that are still out there and fill some of the holes. Great. But I'm not anticipating that. I think it's 100% clear right now that the Yorks are being cheapskates.
I am loath to give you any credit, but my God, that was the clearest, most concise summation of the 49ers offseason I have heard from anybody. They pulled the Band-Aids off, but with the Band-Aid came some skin. That you're right. And look, they are doing it right now. If you look at this tweet, if you're watching the stream, the Niners lead the NFL in dead cap money. They are taking their medicine this year. Essentially, Levin, they're punting 2025. They're taking their medicine. They're trying to clear as many contracts off the book as they can. And that's the strategy that they have chosen to take, quite frankly. And to me, what it means is like, we don't really care if Brock Purdy gets signed or not, because this year is going to be a wash anyway.
I wouldn't quite say they're 100% there, because like I said, it's still early. There's still enough players out there that they could fill some holes. There's still, a trade that could surprise us to make a big splash. There's still a tiny chance. It just certainly looks like at this point, it's hard to see that that's what they're actually trying to do. It certainly looks like that they are absolutely saying, now we're going to penny pinch this year. We're going to have a low cash year in terms of money spent and live to fight another day. Now, I did go look it up. In terms of actual cash given out, the 49ers led the league this year with a record $334 million of cash, which
big deal.
I know what you're thinking right now. Yeah, that's exactly like, you're in the NFL. You make money hands over fist. No, I'm not defending it. I don't think any NFL team should be penny pinching. But I will say, looking at the numbers, okay, how much do the NFL bring in? Well, every team gets $400 million as part of the media rights and all that, plus about $25 million is what they all split for ticket revenue and all that. So they get about $425 million. Now you might be sitting there thinking, okay, so they made $91 million. Well, the $334 million doesn't count any like actual operating expenses. That's just the amount they paid out in contracts to players and coaches. So when you add it all up, I mean, flights, hotels, the actual buildings being on rent, all those things, they probably broke even.
No.
That's
point you to
crazy expensive.
I point you to this tweet from Tim Kawakami. Quote, the Yorks have tons of money. They make about 140 million in profit annually from the 49ers. This isn't about what they do or don't have in their checking accounts. It's about what they want, all caps, to pay out. It's not about the cap. It's about cash spending, and they are cutting that down. They are choosing to do this. Pure and simple. And I've said it. It's Jed's money. He can choose what he wants to do. But this is not a situation where they had to do this. They are.
No, that's why I said I don't excuse it. But I can at least see some logic. They spent about $60 million more in cash this year than they ever have before, meaning the Yorks, specifically the 49ers. They've been in the top half of the league every year since Shanahan took over, other than the first year. And most years they've been top 10. Now, they still are making money. That's the you're making money. Now, last year, yes, they went crazy on the cash spending. They gave out, it's because they moved so many contracts from salary to signing bonuses. So they gave out a lot of cash. Somebody like Debo, obviously, got that done, which ended up hurting being able to get rid of him. So I don't have any sympathy for them. They do have money. The 140 million, I would argue. I think there's things he's not factoring in there, like the operating expenses, that none of us know how much that is. You'd have to sit down and, okay, where did they stay? How much does it cost per room? How many rooms did they get? All those things. What's the price of jet fuel when they flew? That gets crazy complicated. It's a full-time job to track all that. I will say the 49ers probably didn't turn much of a profit at all this past year.
I think that's bogus.
Nah. I mean, I looked at the numbers today. In a given year, in a normal year, yeah, they make plenty of profit. Last year, they spent a lot more and they didn't get anything back for it. Now, I will say making the playoffs or not making the playoffs, this is not the NBA. This is not Major League Baseball. The NFL splits it all. NFL teams do not get any boon for making the playoffs.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Levin. We have
for it.
breaking news for me and Rappaport. 49ers have signed Demarcus Robinson, baby. It is a 2-year deal worth $9.5 million with $6 million fully guaranteed. Baby.
All right, we're ahead of the Seahawks now. Woo!
Championship, baby. Let's go. This is what we needed to.
I mean, it's a good signing. I will say, that's not expensive. You get your wide receiver of the level that I was talking about, but it's another one, it doesn't move the needle. It's not a bad signing. It's something that I think they needed to do, but it's not a needle mover at all.
At least this is the first signing that they've made all day where my first response wasn't,
Yeah.
who?
Yeah.
Okay, Demarcus Robinson, that's somebody I know, but look at, now it's out of date because I didn't have that signing there, but look at these names. Luke Harrell, Curtis Robinson, we knew, Richie Grant, Luke Gifford, Jason Pinnock. We're shopping at the discount bin, baby. It's every signing. I'm at the point now, Levin, where I'm just hoping for Joey Bosa to sign just because it's somebody I know.
I mean, I don't understand why they got rid of Leonard Floyd if they don't have a pass rusher getting signed. Why? Because you saved some money? You need that player. That's the biggest one. If Bosa doesn't come or some other big name pass rusher, that to me, if they go into the draft without Bosa and somebody else signed, then that's what confirms, yeah, they're punting on this year.
Oh, I think they're punting on the year regardless. I think
it's a very high likelihood at this point, but I would not say they definitely are.
I think we will know the second Kyle Shanahan speaks publicly. Don't you agree? Because he's not going to BS. He doesn't have that in him. He can't fake it. You'll know the second he gets up to that podium, because he's going to get asked about Jed spending and all that stuff because he's openly praised Jed in the past. And I think we'll have a pretty good idea when Kyle opens his mouth, which will probably be, I would assume, after the first round of the draft.
Yeah. And I think he might escape it after the first round of the draft because it'll be a quicker press conference. They still have the draft, other rounds to go. They'll just be talking about whatever they did in the first round. And I think Lynch will probably handle most of the speaking on that one. I think it's the post-draft going into off-season workouts where you're going to get an extended Kyle Shanahan press conference.
It depends what they do. Like if they trade up and draft a quarterback or something, then he might escape it. But if it's just like a regular, you ask 2 or 3 questions about the first round pick, and then, I mean, you got to ask about this, Levin. I mean, this is, look at the losses, right? I mean, I'll just throw it on the screen. These are names: Elijah Mitchell, Hufanga, Greenlaw, Mooney Ward, Juice, Leonard Floyd. Like, Juice was the longest tenured 49er, one of the first signings they made in this regime. Like, he's going to get asked about it, and he should get asked about it, by the way. He absolutely should. Ask 1 or 2 questions about the first-round pick, and then the rest of the press conference should be, hey, Kyle, how do you feel about Jed publicly neutering you and taking away all your power and taking away the money? You got to ask it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a better way. If you ask it in that way, it's going to be, he's immediately going to bypass the question.
Yes. I mean, yeah, you can't.
But if you ask him, hey, Kyle, you guys got rid of a lot of big players and you didn't get any big players back. Is this a year where you're rebuilding? And if he says yes, you then follow that up, because he has to say, look, we're trying to retool or whatever. He has to say that. And once he admits that, now you got it on record. Now you go for the jugular and you say, do you think that you are not going to be able to contend this year as it was set up? Because now he has to choose, do I say yes and throw my players under the bus? Or do I say no, alerting them and confirming what they're getting at, that the owner is forcing this? So you're forcing them to pick. Does he defend his players and say, no, we had good players, I think we can still win? Or does he say, no, the roster wasn't good enough, we needed to take a year like this?
I think he'll always defend his players, but I think he'll throw some sort of, how he does. He'll have some sort of line in there that'll tell you how he's really feeling. JCG 1987 YouTube channel member, thank you very much for the super chat, says, Jed wants to be remembered like Eddie DeBartolo, but he's going down the John Fisher route. Purdy is the scapegoat, sell the team. I wish he would sell the team, but he's making $140 million a year, according to Tim Kawakami.
It's funny you bring up Eddie DeBartolo, because I do think that's playing a role here.
Well, okay, so explain why, and then I'll bring up another Kawakami tweet.
So there's a report out there that the Tampa Bay Rays of Major League Baseball, their owner is, one of the worst owners in sports. He refuses to do anything with the team. There is a report that the commissioner of baseball is pressuring him, along with some other owners, to sell the team. In that same article, there is only one name mentioned as a potential buyer. Now, they're not saying that that's the entire list and he would definitely buy it, but they say it is rumored that Eddie DeBartolo Jr. is believed to be interested in buying the team. Now, why is that important? Because Eddie DeBartolo Jr. doesn't have his own money, not to buy a Major League Baseball team. It means the 49ers Enterprises, the company that technically owns the 49ers and owns Leeds United and now owns Rangers FC of the Scottish Football League, would be the ones buying. That's where the money would come from, which means the 49ers, the Yorks and the DeBartolos, need as much cash as they can possibly have this offseason to maybe be able to buy a Major League Baseball team.
So what the article said was the family of Eddie DeBartolo Jr., which I was like, well, the Yorks are part of the family. Denise DeBartolo York, like there's the connection there. And I agreed when you said that to me, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That would be something that would affect the amount of cash that York would have on hand. But Tim Kawakami tweeted this today because somebody brought it up. He said, no, Eddie DeBartolo, who might be bidding for the Rays, no longer owns or has any financial interest in the 49ers and hasn't for checks history books quite some time. Remember, I believe Jed bought out the shares of his parents. He bought out, that would be Denise DeBartolo York. I believe that is what happened. So Tim Kawakami is saying that this DeBartolo Rays thing has no impact on it. So I'm going to take his word for it. But I agree with you. When I first saw that, I was like,
I spent about an hour sleuthing, trying to figure out, because that was my first reaction was, before I go with this, is Eddie DeBartolo still tied to the 49ers money? And I could find no confirmation whatsoever that he is not still part of that the family's money is not still pooled together. And I did find some places that said that the family, and included the Yorks when saying that, is where Eddie DeBartolo has his money from. So
He's
I'm not convinced that he's not tied to the 49ers.
He's clearly got money because he's in the running, and you can't get involved with ownership of a major league team without some
Put it
cash.
this way, to be the majority owner, it's not that he has to have all the money, because a lot of these ownership groups have people that come in with him. I would say he probably is going to need $500 million of his own money. Now, of that, some of that would be he could get loans based off companies and things like that to get the cash. But he probably has to have at least a couple $100 million of actual cash money right now that wouldn't come from loans, and so that he could buy the race. There is a certain amount, and that does play a factor in whether or not you get approved, is how much cash are you actually putting up to buy this Major League Baseball team.
I like this tweet from Jake Ellenbogen, who is a Rams content creator, my favorite Rams content creator, by the way. He says, if this loop continues, the 49ers are going back to the playoffs. Weirdest fun fact ever, Demarcus Robinson, who the Niners just signed, has never missed the playoffs in his career. Of course, he came into the league with, I believe, Kansas City in 2016, and then went to Baltimore for 2022, and then the Rams the last 2 years. All right, good. You know what? I need that kind of positivity in my life right now, Levin. I need it. So thank you, Jake. Shout out to you.
Like I said, I have not closed the book on the 2025 49ers. One, to me, there's enough talent here that if they get a lucky, well, not even there. I'll say that if they spend some big money to address the offensive line, if they get,
who though?
A center, I know. The options are getting limited. And then they also have a really good draft they could get here. I mean, remember, a lot of us thought the Eagles were toast with the way they ended last year, or I guess 2 seasons ago now, the way they ended 2023 season. And then, they had the Reddick debacle, getting rid of him, things like that. People thought, well, there's no way they contend. They made it and won the Super Bowl. So, you're one draft away. The Eagles had a perfect offseason. They made some good signings. They had a couple players emerge and improve. They were already on roster, and then they had a phenomenal draft. So there is a chance here, but it does take signing somebody that's not a roster filler, which so far the people they have signed are backups at best. So they do need to go out there and spend some money. And if they don't in the next week or two, then yes, it's done. They got too many holes to fill with just the draft.
The Eagles had a perfect offseason. The 49ers signed Jason Pinnock, who, according to the 33rd team, allowed a passer rating of 148.3 when targeted last season. That is the worst among all defensive backs that saw more than 20 targets in 2024. I get what you're saying. Of course, the draft is going to be monumentally important, especially this year, for a variety of reasons, one of which I saw a good tweet from Kyle Madsen, who made this point. So I want to give him credit because I don't like to steal people's stuff here. Let me throw it on the screen. Kyle said the urgency is high in the draft because they figure to have just 3 starters on their roster from the 2021, 2022, and 2023 draft class combined. Think about that. In the 3 draft classes, all they got was 3 starters out of those, them being Lenore in 2021, Purdy in 2022, and Jair Brown in 2023. 3 starters, and 1 is Jair Brown.
Yeah, and you can't blame all that on trading 3 first-round picks for a dud of a pick in 2021, which then cost 2 first-round picks in 2022 and 2023. You still get usually multiple, it's not like every draft you get 1 starter and it's the first round pick. You usually get 2 or 3 from a average draft. That's what I would say. An average draft is you got 2 starters and another 2 regular contributors who play a lot of snaps but don't necessarily start. So something needs to change. I would say there's smoke at this point that the end of the Kyle Shanahan era has come. It's here. If they have a bad season, I think it's done.
But see, that's the weirdest part. It's like you're shedding all these guys, you're not signing anybody, and then you're going to be like, damn it, Kyle, you had a bad year. What do you expect?
Yeah, but I mean, so I guess I'm not necessarily meaning they got to go out and win 11, 12 games. But I think they got to win, 7, 8, 9 games. And the rookies have to look good. If they have another draft where rookies aren't contributing and it looks bad, where they missed in another draft, I think at that point it's the combination of you're not winning, the roster's not good anymore, and you've messed up so many drafts in a row that we need to pull the plug on the front office as well. Because I don't see a situation where they're going to have back-to-back losing seasons. Jed York can penny pinch, making it to where one of those seasons is his fault. And then Jed York go, I'm going to fire John Lynch and change the GM. Kyle, you're staying put. No, I think at that point, Kyle would say, no, I'm out of here. You're not getting rid of John Lynch. He goes, I go. You're the reason we lost. You're the reason you wouldn't spend, you know what I mean? It becomes an untenable situation for Kyle Shanahan. He's not going to stick around for another GM coming in.
I agree. I think that Kyle would say that, like, he goes, I go, like, we're a package deal. I just think the whole thing, we're in this cycle. I said it yesterday or Monday. Was Monday yesterday? Yeah. Already losing track. I said it with Vish. Like, we've seen this cycle before, right, Levin? The Yorks come in, they take over, the Niners are bad. Then they get a good coach through some stroke of luck. Jim Harbaugh actually wanted to come to the 49ers. He basically chose them. They get a good coach. York backs off. The Niners succeed. York gets involved. Coach leaves. Niners suck again. That's generally the cycle that we're in. And what happened? Kyle Shanahan, look, they were bad. They got Jim Harbaugh. They were good for a little while. They didn't want to pay Jim Harbaugh because they didn't win a Super Bowl. They got rid of Jim Harbaugh. They were terrible. They were so bad, they had to give Kyle Shanahan full control in a 6-year contract. He had never been a head coach before. They hired him. They back off. Niners get good again. Things get too expensive for the Yorks, and they're going to suck again. And that we're right at that point. We're at the beginning of the suck, Levin.
The thing I don't get is there's only so many outs the Yorks will get before fans are basically at the point of, okay, we're going to stop supporting this team until you sell. Why make yourselves take the blame? You can sit here and say, all right, like, hey, we're not going to give out crazy huge signing bonuses and things like that, but go get players. If it's another losing season, guess what? Nobody's going to be going after Jed York. People were already going after Kyle Shanahan for this season. If they have another losing season where Jed York is not penny pinching, people would come for Kyle Shanahan. They wouldn't come for Jed York. And then they would say, there would be a lot of fans who support, hey, Jed York had to step in. Kyle Shanahan had back-to-back losing seasons. He's had more losing seasons than winning seasons with the 49ers, which would be the case if they have a losing season next year. So why are you stepping in front early saying, well, if that's the way it goes, everybody's going to come at me? Like, he could have just sat back and just said, you're not allowed to give out huge signing bonuses, but fill the roster and try to compete.
Fans can't come after Jed York. I mean, like he said it himself, you don't dismiss owners, right? So, like, they come after Kyle because he's the only one they can, potentially affect in terms of job status. That's why they come after the head coach. There's nothing they
fans can dismiss ownership, but it's very hard to do. You have to have enough unified boycotting, essentially. Enough have to lose interest, where other NFL owners go, hey, you're destroying one of the most profitable teams in the NFL. You're affecting my pocketbook. Because guess what? If the 49ers make less money, all money is shared in the NFL equally. So that affects all teams.
Yeah, there's no chance of the league forcing the Yorks.
I don't think there's any chance that the Yorks are. Yeah, Yorks are the rich type of people who they don't care about the little person. They're not going to care what the little person thinks. They're never going to sell. They
are not. And so now we wait. And now, like, even if they get Joey Bosa, well, let's say we get news tomorrow. There have been a little, streets are saying Joey Bosa is going to sign with the 49ers. They need bodies. Like, they literally have to fill out the roster. They have starting roles that they have to fill out. Like, that's why it's like, it just looks like, damn, like they really need to get like 3 or 4 starters out of this draft class, which would be an amazing draft class, by the way.
At this point, it looks like the odds are slim that they're going to contend. What needs to happen is, yeah, they need to sign one or two, I would guess say bargain starters, actual starters, but obviously the top guys are pretty much signed at this point. But they need a linebacker. The guy they signed is not worth writing home about. They need a linebacker. They got to fill in a couple spots with starting caliber people. They got to have a really good draft. And to also contend, because we're not just talking about being good, they would need Joey Bosa to stay healthy and the Bosa brothers to just go gangbusters on opposing offenses. Because those two, if they're on and they're game wreckers and they both play to the peak of their abilities currently, obviously Joey Bosa is not going to be 25, 26-year-old Joey Bosa anymore, but still a Pro Bowl caliber defensive end. If both of them have that in them, then that defense is going to still be able to dominate games because those two will just wreck all kinds of plays, runs and passes, which then opens the door for the offense. Because the offense is still, it's the defense that has a bunch of problems. The offense, put it this way, the offense is no worse than last year because I don't think Banks is anything to worry about losing. They're no worse than last year.
Yeah, they may be better. If Christian McCaffrey's healthy, you could make the argument they've improved. We don't know. We'll see. By the way, someone, Sean Turner in the chat says, tell me you're old, Levin. You said gangbusters.
Is that, I mean, I don't hear it very much anymore, but I wouldn't say it was ever that common. Like, where does that come from?
At your bridge club?
Where does it come from?
I don't know.
I don't know the origin of it. So I don't know that it's like the origin is some like World War II term or what. I don't know. I never heard it all that much.
The comp picks were awarded. The 49ers got one fewer fourth round comp pick than they were going to get. So they thought it was going to be a fourth. It ended up being a seventh. Yippee. This is why, like, when David Lombardi's tweeting about, oh, it's so great, the Niners maxed out the comp pick. Who cares? If you're getting giddy about comp picks, that means you're having a bad offseason. But the Niners have 11 in round one. Then they have 43, 75, 100, 113, 138, 147, 187, 277, 249, and 252. So
here's the important part. They got 4 in the top 100 and 6 in the top 150. They got the ammo to do what they want in the draft.
They got to pull a lot of starters. All the people, and I was included in this, who complain that Kyle doesn't play the young guys enough early. He doesn't have a choice, Levin. These guys are going to play. They might suck, but they are going to get their chance to prove it.
Yeah. Look, I wouldn't be opposed if somebody falls in the first round and is there for the taking. I'm not opposed to trading significant picks from next year's draft to get back into the first round and get somebody that you look at as, yeah, that's a day one starter.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. And if you actually go back and look at the history of this regime, and really even before this regime, the 49ers have made a habit of trading back into the first round and for multiple picks. I actually looked at that a few years ago. I forget what the actual numbers were.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge advantage to doing that. If you get in, say, the late 20s to somewhere at the end of the first round, the salary difference or the contract difference between 28th and 35th in the second round is negligible. But what you do get by doing that is you get the potential of the 5th-year option. So there is a huge advantage that is worth money. And if you think somebody's a day one starter, then you're probably going to think there's a high likelihood you want to use that 5th-year option on them. So, if let's say they get an offensive lineman at 11, and then there's a defensive tackle that falls into the 20s, or I don't know if there is a safety that's going to be in there. I don't think there's a safety in that range this year. But, somebody else that they go, that's a day one starter at a position of need. Go for it. Trade that second round pick and trade maybe even the first next year.
Yeah, I could see that. If they need to, I think they will. And that's what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson, right? They traded back into the first round to get the last pick of the first round to take him specifically because they wanted that 5th-year option, which makes, especially for a quarterback, is massive. I don't think the Niners will be doing that. But again, who the hell knows? At this point, I think everything is up in the air. There were a couple of chats that I saw that I wanted to get to. Silas Copeland says, Are we saying the offensive line is addition by subtraction? I would say yes. Aaron Banks was horrible last year. Ben Barch looked halfway decent. I would take my chances between Ben Barch and Spencer Burford, honestly, on that left side, and let's see what we got. Plus, we'll see if they draft anybody. But yeah, I think that Aaron Banks, not only leaving the 49ers, but going to an NFC team in the Packers, that's a win for us. Honestly, he's not good.
Spending money on him, like what?
$19 million a year, I think he got.
Yeah, I don't understand some of the evaluations, but it's not necessarily that I think that they have better on roster. It's that I think whoever you find and plug in there is going to be really bad anyways, and Banks was already really bad, so any drop you get is not going to be that large. It's the difference between being a 3 out of 10 and being a 2 out of 10 doesn't really affect you because the 3 out of 10 is destroying so many plays already.
Silas disagrees with us on the 5th-year option. No one cares about the 5th-year option. LOL. If they are good, they're getting signed before that even matters. Maybe
that is true to an extent. That has become a trend. There's a lot less 5th-year options actually played on. Now, I will say the thing that changes is, except for the really good players, a lot of times they don't get the new contract until after the 4th year. So it pushes the new contract 1 year.
And it's about the flexibility. The very fact that you have the 5th-year option affects the contract negotiations because it's all about, well, if we do nothing, we still have you for this amount of money. So it does matter. The Niners got an extra year out of Mike McGlinchey without having to pay him because of the 5th-year option. So it's not nothing, Silas. So I disagree with you on that. Where was the other one? Oh, here it is. Joe Tiz says, Niners have a cupcake schedule this season when you push the chips in, or this is when you push the chips in. I disagree. The Niners are the cupcake this season. Other teams are looking, and when they see the 49ers on their schedule, they're like, great. They just lost all those guys. That's a win. That's
the Seahawks, but the Niners aren't far ahead of that.
I think
I'll say this. He's saying the 49ers have a cupcake schedule this season, so push the chips in. The reason they have a cupcake schedule is because they lost a bunch of games. So if you lose a bunch of games this year, what are you going to have the next year? A cupcake schedule.
They are the cupcake. They weren't good last year. Like, I know that people think it was a bump in the road, but we highlighted the real problems they had on this roster all year long. Even with the injuries, they had real problems. Brock Purdy threw a lot of dumb interceptions last year. This defense was putrid against the run. They allowed the second most rushing touchdowns in the entire league last year. 24 rushing touchdowns they allowed. They were 17th in rush yards allowed, and they haven't done anything to this point to shore that up. Levin, I'll put the signings back on the screen. I know the Demarcus Robinson one is not there because it just happened, but I mean, there's nobody on this list where you're like, oh, there you go. They filled a hole there.
Yeah. They got some moves to make to have any shot of doing anything. It's frustrating, and yeah, okay. There's really nowhere to go with it. They are not doing anything at this point. They have sat on their hands.
Let me get to this comment. Did Jen says, y'all are so pessimistic. Jen, what is there to be optimistic about right now? Please tell me. What is it? I'll put the damn signings back on the screen. Is it Ben Barch? Does that got you all fired up deep in your bones? Is it the 2nd-round tender they put on Jordan Mason? Curtis Robinson coming off an ACL injury? Jason Pinnock, Luke Gifford, Richie Grant? What is there to be positive about right now? Really, I want to know what has happened since the season has ended that has got you so pumped up. I'm so sick of people demanding that you got to be positive all the time. When things suck, I'm going to be negative. Things suck right now for the 49ers. One of the best eras the team has had in the past quarter century is over. They're losing a bunch of talent. The owner's not spending any money. What is there to be positive right now about, Jen? Please put it.
I got one thing that you're excited about.
What? Kyle
Juszczyk will not be on this team.
Oh, I mean, we can get to that, but like, really, Jen, put it in the chat. I really want to know, what is it that I should be positive about right now? I like being positive. I would love to be positive, but please tell me what it is. Maybe I'm just missing it.
It's not going to be 2004, 2005. It's not going to be one of those years. But right now, it looks like a team. I would put the 49ers in this boat. They're not bad enough to fight for the top pick. They're not good enough to contend. Depending on how things go and injuries and all that, they could win 6 games or they could win 10 games. They could make the playoffs with the way the team is now. But it's not a good spot to be in. That's I would argue the worst spot to be in the NFL is stuck in the middle. Either be bad enough that you're going to get a top 5 pick or be good enough to truly contend.
I mean, if you're telling me they're not the worst 49ers team they've ever been, okay. Jen says, let's bet Rob. I guarantee we're making the playoffs. I mean, I like to see the draft class before I make that bet. But even then, even if they have a great draft class, it's going to be tough, man. The NFC is not going to be easy.
You can offer her a bet, Rob.
What's that?
You can offer a bet.
What's that?
If the Niners make the playoffs, you'll give her $20. If the Niners don't make the playoffs, she's got to subscribe for 6 months.
I mean, look, let's just run through the teams. Obviously, we know the Eagles are good. The Commanders, you could argue, have gotten better. They certainly haven't gotten worse. Would you agree?
I would say they're better, but some of the contracts they've given out this offseason, they're going to regret.
They had a couple weird ones, but they also made a couple of good moves.
Yeah.
The Cowboys, I don't think are anything. The Giants stink. The Lions, we don't know. Ben Johnson's gone, but they still have a very talented roster. The Vikings, their quarterback situation is weird. We don't know. The Packers are going to be good. They won 11 games last year. I don't think the Packers have gotten worse. The Banks signing is weird, but I don't think it's going to wreck their season. The Bears are probably going to be a lot better. They've made upgrades on the offensive line. They've hired Ben Johnson. The Buccaneers roster is very solid. They're probably going to win a bad division again. Atlanta, who knows what the hell Atlanta's doing. Carolina Bryce Young has played better, but he's not great. But I think they are improving. The Saints are in salary cap hell. The Rams are going to win the division. They're the favorite. I don't know what the hell to make of Seattle. I mean, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith.
Seattle's horrendous right now. Here's the thing. And I put this out there on Blue Sky because people were saying, I don't love the Sam Darnold signing, but he's too good to give them, a top pick to get a quarterback. But he's not good enough to win games for him and things like that. And I said, well, that's not necessarily true because Sam Darnold, behind the horrendously bad offensive line they have, is going to see the ghosts of New York. Yeah, so he will help them tank because Sam Darnold, with that offensive line, is destined for 20-plus turnovers if he gets to start the whole year.
Here's the thing. I think you could make the argument that none of the playoff teams have got worse except maybe Minnesota, but Minnesota won 14 games last year. If they get 4 games worse, they still win 10. So, that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be tough for the 49ers to make the playoffs. It's going to be tough. And again, I would like to see it. Of course, I would like to see it. I root for the 49ers. But to sit here and say, oh, you guys are too negative when there's literally nothing good happening for the franchise right now at all bugs me. It gets under my skin. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. There's nothing positive to bring up right now. What is their positive? Purdy contract, not done. There's some good publicity, but there's also people starting to put stuff out there that this is getting a little weird of a negotiation. There's really bad stuff put out there that, the Yorks aren't going to spend any money this offseason. And there's been a bunch of players that have gone away. I don't think any of them are, none of them have been, dang it, I can't believe they went away. Like, the Greenlaw was the only one that I was disappointed by. But when I saw the contract, I said, I'm not committing $10+ million to somebody that I don't know if there's a shell left.
Yeah, the Greenlaw contract, good for him. But
I don't blame him one bit, but that's too big of a risk.
Shades of Idiocy on Twitch, shout out to the Twitch fam, says one positive thing, stats, Jake Moody will positively cost us at least a few games. How is Jake Moody the one that's left after this bloodletting, Levin? Jake Moody, the guy that was terrible last year, is somehow going to continue.
That reminds me, him being a Michigan guy. Did you see what Joey Bosa said?
No.
On the way out, he made a joke about how it was getting to be a little too much of a Michigan place.
That's funny. Sean Turner is correct when he points out Saleh back as a positive, special teams coach out as a positive. That is true. That is the one place you could say the 49ers have definitively upgraded is in the coaching. I think that is 100%
special teams too, because the linebacker they signed is a special teams ace. That's literally what they signed him, because he is really, really good on special teams.
Yay.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, but that is an improvement. They were horrible last year on special teams. So, okay. All right. That is an improvement. That is one area that is better. You are right, Sean. So credit to you. You are 100% right. AW asks, do you think Saleh knew about the rebuild before the signing? Is he ticked that the defense is gone, or is he here multiple seasons for the rebuild? I don't think he's here multiple seasons unless the team is bad. Like, if everything goes according to plan, the defense is going to be good and he's going to be out. He is not here to put in more years as a defensive coordinator. He's there to rehab his image so he can become a head coach again as fast as possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's why he came here. Now, if he was unaware that this is how it was going to go, I would imagine he's pretty pissed off right now. But there's enough there for him to still get a head coaching. I mean, we have seen people get head coaching gigs when they had average defenses, or offenses for that matter, for the offensive coordinators, after already failing as a head coach. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of it is about leadership, your image matching with the GM's image that's wanting to hire you, and what staff you're going to be able to bring with you. Mm-hmm. That, I would say, is the big hurdle that Saleh has. What staff is he going to bring with him?
He'll be working on it, I'm sure. I'm sure he'll be working on it all. That's why I was wondering, like, is he going to go to the combine? Because it would have been an opportunity for him to hobnob with all these other coaches. You go out, you get dinner, you're at the bar. They're all at the bar. Like, they're just there. So it's like you don't even have to make an effort to bump into people. So it would have been a good. I don't know if he did. I didn't hear any reports that Saleh.
I didn't hear that he was there, but
I didn't hear that he wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. Steve-O Supremo says Saleh isn't a savior. He was so bad as a head coach, even at the mic, he gets no picks. He's a great defensive coordinator, and he's certainly better than Nick friggin' Sorensen. Are you kidding me?
I would say he's a very good defensive coordinator who I think makes a better head coach. But the situation he went into didn't work out. They drafted a quarterback, number 2 overall, who sucked and didn't put the work in. But everybody at the time thought that was the correct pick. So you can't blame them. And then they brought in an aging jerk of a quarterback who refused to put the work in because he thinks, hey, I'm Aaron freaking Rodgers. I can just show up when the season starts and win a Super Bowl. And it didn't work out. And even then, it was shocking when he got fired, to the point that Rich Eisen was criticizing the move. And he does not criticize NFL owners.
Yeah, that was like week 6. I think they fired Robert Saleh. It was incredibly early.
It was after a London game that Rich Eisen did the play-by-play. So I tend to listen to Rich Eisen during the season. He was talking about how shocking it was because they met with Woody Johnson prior to the game. Yeah. And Woody Johnson made no indications that he was upset with the job that Saleh was doing. And Rich Eisen even went on record saying the reason he thinks it happened was that Woody Johnson has a ton of friends in London because he used to have a government role for Great Britain. And he got embarrassed by losing the game in a really bad fashion in front of all his friends. And he made a knee-jerk reaction to fire Saleh.
That sounds like the Jets. Jets going to jet. Sean Turner asked this question. Is it time to trade Christian McCaffrey while he has some value? I saw this tweet from, and I know people are going to hate this, but I thought it was a good tweet. our friend Grant Cohn, who just pointed out that the 49ers have some option bonuses that are due on April 1st. Bosa's getting $29 million. Ayuk's getting $22.8, which ticks Jed off. Christian McCaffrey's getting $14.2, and then Lenore and Jennings have smaller bonuses under $10 million each. This is what Jed doesn't want to pay. It's the bonuses, because that's the cash, okay? That's what he doesn't want to pay. That's part of the reason they got rid of Debo when they did, because he didn't want to pay his option bonus.
I'll say this.
I wondered about
if you are punting on this season, and that is what York is forcing, absolutely trade Christian McCaffrey, because he's got 1, maybe 2 years at most left, and he might have 0. So this is your chance to get. If you're not trying to win next year, then you absolutely get rid of Christian McCaffrey.
This would be another instance of trading a guy when his stock is lowest, right? Christian McCaffrey's stock is low.
It's not as low as what it could be.
What it will be.
It's lower than it is, than it was, obviously. But if he goes out and he has more injuries this next year, or he goes out and just has a bad season because age finally caught him, because he is getting to the point where the cliff could come. Some running backs age gracefully. Some fall off a cliff. If he has a bad year, whether due to injury or just performance, he has 0 trade value.
Nick Ellert says, I believe the cap hit is crazy on Christian McCaffrey. Jed doesn't care. They're leading the NFL in dead cap money right now. It's $76 million or whatever it is. Jed does not care about the cap. He
cares about cash. He doesn't care about the cap. There's
right.
a huge difference.
He wants to get rid of the option bonuses because he didn't want to pay that.
Right. He wants to say, wow, we have all the salary cap space. Here's how I'm going to use it. You're cutting guys having huge dead cap hits, but I don't have to give them any cash, because a dead cap hit, if you're not aware, is what is the dead cap is signing bonuses that have already been paid. So even if they have a massive dead cap hit, there's no cash that has to come from Jed York, except for in rare cases like Nick Bosa, I think would have to get a little bit more cash because he has guarantees left in his deal. But those are like only the cream of the crop type of contracts.
I would put no move past Jed York, especially if it saves him money. Like, seriously, I would put no move. This is who the Yorks are. Like, come on, man. Maybe people haven't been around for that long. If you've only been around, really into the team since 2019, you have a different view of the Yorks. I've been a 49ers fan for 30 years. I know who the Yorks are, and who the Yorks are penny pinchers. At their core, they are penny pinchers. That's why he got so much credit when they started signing all these guys, because nobody expected it to happen. But they were making money hand over fist, so it was no big deal. And they still are making money hand over fist, but now he wants even more money. So this is where we are.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Put it that way. The Yorks got their money by being in the type of business that you penny pinch most. They were construction and real estate.
Yay. Great. Love having that for an owner. So again, I'm sorry that I'm not more positive. I'm sorry that I don't have, super exciting things to say. I want this team to be good. I hated last year. Last year sucked. It was horrible. They were 6-11. We were doing the miserable instant reaction shows where the same crap keeps happening week after week. Those are not the shows I want to do, man. I like the shows where we were like, we just smashed the hell out of them. Those are the shows that I loved. And that's the identity that I think I'm going to miss, Levin, because even if they are good again, I don't think that their identity will be the same as it was. They seem, especially on offense, they seem to be building an offense that's more, I don't want to say finesse because that gets a bad rap, but kind of, it's not a out physical you, smash you in the face. It's more going to be Brock Purdy dropping back, hitting his targets on time and sort of staying on schedule type of team.
Yeah, certainly true. You're not going to see. I think we all like the physical version, and especially for the 49ers, I think there's a little bit of nostalgic to it because we had Harbaugh, which went to the extreme in that. And then it was an abrupt, horrendously low fall. Like, they didn't just fall, They fell and broke through the floor and kept going, fall from the Harbaugh years. And then when they came back with kind of a similar identity of, we're going to be the bullies. You're going to get hit and you're going to like it. And if you don't like it, guess what? You can't stop us from doing it. And they definitely have transitioned into, I would say, a skill-based offense. They are going to out-scheme you, and they are going to out-talent you. They are not going to out-physical you.
Even like look at the defense, like Fred Warner, phenomenal player, right? Great player, incredible linebacker, best middle linebacker in the league, but not a guy that's going to smash you. A lot of times when he hits you, he gets carried for a few yards. Dre Greenlaw was the physical smash you in the face guy. He is gone. Talanoa Hufanga was a very physical player. He was gone. Now, Sean Turner correctly points out Malik Mustafa will smash people. That is true. He is.
Lenore, too. The secondary has a physical kind of bulldog mentality. The defensive line does not.
No, the defensive line does not. I mean, they only have Fred Warner really at linebacker. I mean, D. Winters likes to be, but he can't even finish a series without getting hurt. So you can't really count on that. And you can still win that way. I'm not criticizing at all. It's just going to be different is all I'm saying. And I did enjoy the physical smash mouth team. It was awesome because we didn't just beat teams. We kicked their ass.
I'll take wins any way they can get them. Just right now, it does not look like a lot of wins are coming next season. I'm hoping some moves are coming. I don't have high hopes.
I don't know what moves are left, quite frankly. I mean, they could have a good draft and load up, and that's cool, but we won't really know the answer to that until they start playing, until we see these guys on the field. So we have no idea. But yeah, until then, it's frustrating to say the least. But it is the 49ers. Even when they're bad, they're never boring. So let's just keep that in mind.
I got one question. Who's going to be the backup quarterback?
Well, they were talking to Jameis Winston reportedly. But
the backup quarterback is like a super important, high intrigue position for the 49ers because literally all of training camp is usually all about who's the backup quarterback.
Well, it might be this year too, because Brock might not be signed. So we could be right back in that situation there, Levin. Jamie Allen, thank you for the super chat, says it's bad, but you have some positives. You have 3 solid backs, decent secondary, draft in the trenches. Solid did great in 2020 with mid talent. Yeah, the upgraded coaching is real. That is a real thing. And they will be able to squeeze all the talent that they do have out of the players. I do agree with that. I don't care that they have 3 solid backs. Like, that's the most.
You only need 1. If you need 3, you got problems.
Well, they needed 5 last year. I was surprised they gave Jordan Mason a second-round tender because he's going to make more than $5 million this year. There's only 17 running backs in the whole league that make more than that, and one of them's on the 49ers already.
And you know what that says?
Trade McCaffrey?
It could end up meaning that. It either means they're trading McCaffrey or it means they don't have a whole lot of faith in McCaffrey being able to last an entire season.
Well, Evan. How the turntables have turned. Joey Bosa has signed, and it is not with the San Francisco 49ers. He's going to the Buffalo Bills on a 1-year, $12.6 million deal. This offseason it's a festival, man. It just is a festival.
And it's not a festival. It's festering.
It's all the people that said, oh, don't worry, Jed York's going to spend. He's just going to spend smart. No, I think we know now. He's not going to spend, okay? He's not going.
Yeah, I think that's what cost them Joey Bosa. Let's be honest here. I think what happened here was Joey Bosa's towards the end of his career. I know he's just now hitting 30, but with the injuries he's had, he's not going to last that much longer. He's saying, I need to win a Super Bowl.
Yep.
And it's not going to be with the 49ers. I think it's clear that he said, the 49ers are not serious right now. I wanted to play with my brother, but I don't have another year to waste on not contending.
I think that's exactly what it says. I think he looked at it and he was like, do I want to play with the 49ers who have gotten rid of everybody and just gutted themselves, especially the defense that I'm going to be on? Or Do I want to play with Josh Allen, the best quarterback in the sport? Let me think about it. Yeah, you know what? I think I'll go to Buffalo. Think about that. I mean, that is the biggest indictment yet of this 49ers offseason.
Yeah, this is hitting the what I call the early retirement offseason levels. That was the Patrick Willis, Chris Borland, like everybody just retired. And you're like, what the heck just happened? I thought we were contending next year.
Justin Smith too.
Yeah, yeah. It's hitting that level of they don't want to contend. They had the opportunity to contend. This team absolutely could have contended. They had the cap space, the moves to make, which would have taken salary and moved it to another signing bonus, so it would have taken cash. They could have had almost $90 million in cap space if they wanted to, with the moves they could have made. Instead, they're using their cap space on dead cap space by cutting people that they owe money and not signing anybody.
This is the
at this point. At this point, I'm just thinking about the year that we all know after, what was it, after 2002, when they became the first team in NFL history to lose their leading passer, leading rusher, and leading receiver all in the same offseason. At this point, we might be entering another one of those where Ayuk does get traded and Christian McCaffrey does get traded, and they truly say, no, we're not hitting rebuild, we're hitting reset.
Vita for Life says, hurry, go sign another special team specialist to counter this loss. Great comment. I said when that Mike Silver article came out that this is it, that it was dead, that they weren't going to spend. And I said they might even blow the whole thing up. And I still agree. I still think, we just talked about it, I think Christian McCaffrey might get moved. If they get anything for Brandon Ayuk, I think Brandon Ayuk will get moved. And I wouldn't be stunned at all, if Brock Purdy gets moved or doesn't get a contract done and they force him to try and play on the last.
I don't think there's any chance of Brock Purdy getting moved, but
I do.
I don't. But we were right in one sense with Joey Bosa. He is replacing Leonard Floyd, because Leonard Floyd was with the Bills not last year, but the year before. And Von Miller did not come back and fill that void. So now Joey Bosa is going to fill that.
You don't think there's a chance Brock Purdy gets moved? If they say, Brock, we're not giving you the contract, and he says, great, I'm not playing.
No, I don't think there's any chance that he gets traded.
You don't think Brock would say that?
I think Brock might say that. I don't think, put it this way, I think if the 49ers were to actually look into trading Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan would walk before that happens. Brock Purdy, I do think, is Kyle Shanahan's guy. And Kyle Shanahan is probably only putting up with this offseason. I'm kind of surprised. Like, if this was the offseason that York was going to force, I'm kind of surprised Shanahan didn't say, I'm retiring. Do the I retire and then come back in a year thing. But I do think Brock is the one thing that Shanahan has for why to stick around. Because if he thinks he's truly the guy, then you can rebuild quick, because that's what it takes to rebuild. You have to have a quarterback.
I think if he was their guy, why haven't they signed him yet? Like Tim Kawakami just said,
because he's not controlling the pocketbook.
Nothing. He said nothing is imminent with Brock Purdy. Why not? They've been eligible to re-sign him since the second the regular season ended.
Yeah, we know Kyle Shanahan is not controlling that pocketbook.
No, I know, which is why, again, I think there's a chance he could be moved. I think this Joey Bosa thing I think there's going to be repercussions from that. The fact that he chose not to go with the 49ers, I think they may say
that's the catalyst for the media changing tunes. I think.
Shut it down. It's just, man, when all I was hoping for was a washed up defensive end that was going to be a rotational player, and we still can't get that because they don't want to spend, what was it, $12 million, 12.6.
I said I'm going to get very vocal with Jed York if he truly is penny pinching. This is like, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt currently. I think it's very likely that's what he's doing. But the Yorks wanting to penny pinch over spending cash when they just spent $56 freaking million in cash to buy the Rangers FC of the Scottish. You can't penny pinch with the main team when you just spent $56 million in cash to buy another team. That's so if that ends up being what it is, you're going to see me, going. Jed York probably won't allow me in the building next year when they host the Super Bowl.
Andre Garibay, YouTube channel member, says Josh Allen signed with 3 years on his deal. It's actually 4 years, Andre, but Brock Purdy is still waiting. Max Crosby's deal with the Raiders got done in hours, Levin. Hours. Yet Brock Purdy's been eligible to sign a new deal since the regular season ended, and they're not close, and nothing is imminent. And it's March, and we've already started free agency.
Yeah, because the Niners haven't offered anything of real chance.
That's the point.
I would bet the 49ers have not offered more than $40 million. I bet they have like an offer out there with $35 million a year.
Well, Diana Rossini said that the report of them offering $45 million was false, that it did not happen. Doesn't mean they offered him more than that. Doesn't mean they've made an offer at all. But
I think Brock would sign for 50, to be honest with you.
I can't even believe they couldn't even get Joey freaking Bosa when his brother's on the team. I think it's an indictment of the 49ers were the spot that players wanted to go to, right? They were the spot. They're like, oh, damn, the 49ers are going and grabbing people. Like, we got to be a part of that. Let's go. And now it's the complete opposite. The rats are fleeing the ship, man. Nobody wants to be a part of the 49ers.
That's what I was going to get at is, at what point does a player get vocal? At what point does Kittle speak up? At what point does Bosa speak up? Saying, hey, we're here to win a Super Bowl. We need the ownership to have our back. That's what if I'm Nick Bosa right now, because I think Nick Bosa they cannot move him. His contract would decimate the 49ers for multiple years if they try to move him right now. If I'm Nick Bosa, I come out and say, I'm here to win a Super Bowl. It doesn't look like our ownership is. And that would be my response, because he's going to get asked about Joey Bosa.
Bosa gets $12 million guaranteed with an upside up to 15.6, according to Rap Sheet. If you're George Kittle, Levin, and right now you're not under contract, right? You got one more year, and then your contract is up. Why would you re-sign with the 49ers? Why? Why would you do another deal to stick around at this point?
No, you know what? I'm George Kittle right now. You know what I'm looking at, to be all honest with you? I'm going, I'm going to wait this out. And if this keeps going the way it's going, I'll be Travis Kelce's replacement in Kansas City.
I think everything is now on the table for the 49ers. Brock, Kittle, McCaffrey, Ayuk, pick somebody. I do not put anybody off limits in terms of trading for the 49ers or getting rid of. I think that I said it when that damn article came out, that they could blow the whole thing up, and I think that we just took another step closer to that. I know, Rob's overreacting. You're being dramatic, blah, blah, blah. Let's just see what happens from this point out. Up to and including, by the way, Kyle Shanahan. This could easily be Kyle Shanahan's last year as a head coach. He's under contract. They may trade him too.
Yeah, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, if it is true, which I think it's, every hour makes it more likely, that Jed York is just refusing to spend the salary cap space that the team worked hard to create to make this a contending team. I'm going in there and saying, no, trade me or release me after this year. I'm done.
George Kittle has seen guys that he has played his whole career with, guys that he has loved. Kyle Juszczyk, go check George's Instagram and Twitter. He tweeted it out on Twitter, actually. He was heartbroken over the juice walking out the door. Now, I think that was the right move. But what I'm saying is for George Kittle personally, when he has seen all these guys leave, why would he want to stick around? I totally get if George Kittle said right now, I want to trade. Or Fred Warner. Same thing. His dog, Dre Greenlaw, he's spoken glowingly about Dre Greenlaw. He said, whatever you think of me, think of Dre Greenlaw. Well, Greenlaw's gone now. I think everybody is on the table. Buckle up for the rest of this offseason. It could be wild.
There's one that you haven't mentioned. Trent Williams could retire. Could say, I'm not here to rebuild. Yeah. This was my last year to try to win one. You're not going to try to win? Then I'm retiring. I'm not going to continue to put myself through this.
Yep. I
could see him announcing retirement. Or saying, I'm retiring unless they trade me somewhere that I can contend for a Super Bowl.
I would. If I were him, why would I want to do this? Why would I want to stick around?
Of all the people, he is the one that should be saying, I'm out.
What is a 6-win, 7-win season going to do for me if I'm Trent Williams? Great. I make another Pro Bowl. So what? I know he wants to have the most ever. Maybe that's enough for him, but damn, man, that's a lot of crap to go through, especially when, they're so close to all these years of success. They're not that far removed from being really, really good. So it's like, what it's like when it's good. And to be on the opposite side of that, oh, man, I did not need that news tonight. Joey Bosa agreeing with
13 months ago, we were in Vegas covering a 49ers Super Bowl.
Yep.
13 months.
11 starters from that Super Bowl team are gone. 11 starters. That's an entire side of the ball. Not from the 2019 Super Bowl, from the Super Bowl that was played in 2024. 11 starters from that game are no longer on the 49ers. When they say life comes at you fast in this league, man, holy hell, are they right?
Yeah, it's going to be, looks like a rough one. We haven't really experienced this. We started doing a podcast together in 2019. Every year we've done a podcast, we've gone into the season thinking championship is a possibility.
Well, yeah, as hosts, we haven't experienced this, but as fans,
I'm saying we together have not experienced this. Can you, Matt? Here's the other part of this that I think that's going to be the thing that gnaws at me, that sticks to my sides. The Niners are hosting the Super Bowl. Jed York, you're hosting a freaking Super Bowl and you're punting on that season?
Doesn't care. Why would he care? The Super Bowl makes him money. Hand over fist. He doesn't care if the 49ers are in. He doesn't care. He acts like he cares, but he really doesn't care.
No, they only care about this. And they've always cared about the bottom line.
Yep.
But it's just, you're doing a teardown the year you're hosting the Super Bowl when you had the cap space to contend to try to win the Super Bowl in your own building. Yikes.
Yikes is the perfect word for it.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. I'm getting texts from people. Half the people are furious that they can't get Joey Bosa. Half the people are laughing that the 49ers couldn't get Joey Bosa. And again, it's not because Bosa was going to fix every problem the 49ers had on defense. He's a rotational pass rusher. But it's just a signal, again, of how the rest of the league views the 49ers. And even with his brother playing, a chance for him to play with his brother, who we know he's super close to. They train together in the offseason. It's his friggin' brother. He still said, I don't want to be a part of that. It's better for me if I'm on a different team. And that is new territory for this 49ers regime, quite frankly. And it's crappy territory to be in.
Yeah. Random thought. I don't know what's worse. Having an owner who only cares about the bottom line, doesn't really care about winning, or having Jerry Jones, who definitely wants to win. He's just too much of an idiot to step out of the way and to let his team win.
I don't think Jerry cares about winning. I think Jerry cares way more about being the team with the highest worth and making money. I think Jerry pretends to care about
He cares about image. I think Jerry, he has to win for his own ego. He doesn't want to win for the right reasons. He wants to win because his ego can't handle being a laughingstock.
Well, they are a laughingstock.
I know
they are. NFC Championship game since 1995.
Somebody needs to come up with a curse name for the Cowboys and the 49ers, because we're going to go on 30 years with neither one of them winning a Super Bowl after they won 4 of them in a row combined.
I'm not quite sure how to say this name. Mr. Big Tuane, 49er, says Jed basically had an open checkbook up until now, and all he got in return was 2 blown Super Bowls and a 6-11 season. No, dude. He got money, piles of money, home playoff games year after year, Super Bowl appearances. Do you know how much money that makes an owner? The idea that he got nothing is laughable. He got the thing he cares about the most. He got money. Do not sit here and defend Jed York. Your only job as an owner is to sign the checks and then fall ass backwards into money. Every owner, that's your only job. Giving Jed York credit for spending the money that he is making hand over fist is ridiculous. That's the only thing he's got to do, brother.
Look, I did look into this today. I don't disagree. Like he has plenty of money, but I was shocked because I thought that they kept some of the gate to make the playoffs. I thought there was an incentive to make playoffs. In the NFL, there is not. All the money, including from the playoffs, go into a single pot and is split equally. They do not have an incentive for teams in the playoffs. They don't get more money because they were the home team. They don't get more money from merchandising sales because all merchandising sales go into one pot and is split equally amongst the teams, meaning if another team had made that Super Bowl, they would have sold that merchandise and you would have gotten the same amount to it back. So there is not a financial incentive to NFL teams making the playoffs, which I think is a massive mistake. I had not realized that. I knew that they didn't get extra money for making the playoffs. Like some teams or some leagues do reward teams for, there is a team benefit. It's not just players that get extra money. But I thought that they kept some part of the gate or at least the merchandising money from the playoffs. They do not.
What they get is the exposure, right?
Yes.
And you get talked about by the national media.
Their evaluation goes up.
And the team is worth more. And when you
Yes.
sell it, you're going to make... Eddie DeBartolo paid $13 million. Think about this. Eddie DeBartolo paid $13 million for the 49ers. They are trying to get valued at $9 billion. Okay. You know how much money that is? That's an insane
You're supposed
amount
to do this when you said that. $9 billion.
No, a topical reference from you. Good. Yeah. Austin Powers movies are only, 25 years old at this point?
Hey, you're a millennial too, you jerk. Don't act like you didn't get it.
I got it. I'm just trying to think of the audience. That's all. Oh, I love this comment. Cassie Miller says, or Casey, I apologize if I said your name wrong. John Lynch can see Kyle from his window and he looks great. That's the John Lynch line. Talking about name any injured 49ers player. Every year, John Lynch would say, he looks great. I could see him working out from my window. He looks great. And they would immediately be hurt the following year.
See, that might be true normally, but I don't know that he can see him from his window anymore because it's a sinking ship.
That's right.
So it's either underwater or it's way up in the air and the angle has changed.
Brushido, YouTube channel member, thank you for the support, Brushido, says, still a lot of offseason left. Simmer down. Brew, give me the moves. Give me the moves that would salvage this offseason. I'd love to hear them. Please. If you're going to say, all they got to do is nail all 11 draft picks. Is that where we are? I mean, what are the moves? Give me the moves left that would salvage the offseason.
Could have had another topical reference. Could have said, show me your moves. Do you know that one?
That one I don't know.
That is a Smash Brothers reference.
Oh, I never got into Smash Brothers.
You wouldn't. You never got into anything competitive.
What are you talking about? I never got into anything competitive because I didn't play Smash Brothers. I played Magic all the time.
Did you compete against other humans?
Yes. We just did an NCAA Dynasty. I kicked your ass when we played.
And you quit playing it.
Well, what was left to do? There were no more worlds left to conquer.
Yeah.
Anyway, Joey Bosa signing with the Bills, just adding to the list of 49ers disappointments this season. That was like the only kind of thing I was hoping for. I could delete I had a whole thumbnail all made up for when Joey Bosa signed with the 49ers. Nope, not happening. So now we wait and see. Does this move have any other repercussions for the 49ers? Does it impact? Does it change their plans of who they may get rid of? Do they just go full bore, tear it down completely to the studs? We will see. Oh, let's sneak into Super Chat quickly before we go. Ethan Parrish says, best case scenario, the 49ers moneyball their way into a wild card and lose all contributors next year and still don't have a good pick / team. I think what you got to hope for at this point is, but even then, yay, luck our way into the wild card. Ooh, gee, thanks. Hope is not a strategy, people. Diego says, pretty Ricky misses again. He had predicted Bosa to the 49ers. It's interesting because they got rid of Leonard Floyd. So it's like, did they think they were getting Joey Bosa?
No. They got rid of Leonard Floyd because they could say Leonard Floyd had a huge salary this year. He had, I want to say it was like $9.1 million in salary. What that means is Jed York was going to have to give him $9.1 million of cash this season.
Oh, the tangled web we weave, but the 49ers
It's not tangled, it's unraveling.
Yeah, well, that's true. The wheels are falling off. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Please like and subscribe to the video. Subscribe to like the video, subscribe to the channel, I should say. We're available for audio podcasts as well, wherever you get your audio pods. Thank you to everybody that's been leaving reviews on Apple Pods. It is helping us climb the charts. So please, please keep them coming. Michelle will roast me on Friday when she reads your review on the air. So that's a new thing that we started 11. You might want to check that out. Her first roast of me, did you hear it last week?
I did not know.
She said, my Trey Lance takes were so bad, SB Nation shut down their entire podcast network.
I mean, she's not wrong.
She go, oh, fuck you. Enjoy the rest of your damn Tuesday night, everybody. Goodbye.